But let's talk about the depth. The depth is basically the stuff that we were talking about last week, giving a character a unique view on life. Okay? And you want to, when this is really working, make them see the world in a very different way from other characters. And you want to do it in a way that you're not bombarding us with long, boring paragraphs telling us how they see the world. One of the great arts of writing is the concept of showing instead of telling. Have any of you heard this before that are not in the class? Yeah, you've heard it before, I assume. Show, don't tell. Okay? Showing, don't telling. Not telling. There you go. Fix that in post, video guy. I'm joking. Showing, not telling. Okay? This is a simple adage we talk about in all types of storytelling that is just really hard to do. Okay? I won't pull punches on you. This is really hard to do because it's one of those things you kind of have to be doing all the time. And no author is perfect at it, and all authors are going to slide because showing. But someone tell me what I mean by this. You all know it, but let's talk about it. Tell me what I mean by showing rather than telling.
Well, when you show something, it's kind of like in the moment in action, and then if you tell someone, it's just like, oh, this thing happened. So
Right. Yes.
Like if you were to say Bruce hated puppies or Bruce kicked a well, you know.
Yeah, that's the best type of example. Bruce hated puppies. You will find if you go look at the writing you've done for this class, if you scan even one section, you will find a line like Bruce hated puppies. I guarantee it. Every one of you. In fact, if you look at my early drafts, you'll find them all over the place. If you look at my late drafts, you'll still find them all over the place because doing this all the time is really hard. But doing it well, moving toward this is something you always want to be doing. Every draft should be pushing. Should be pushing that way. Should be pushing like that. Should be pushing toward more telling, more showing. You should be taking away the tells and doing the shows. So it's okay in a first draft, though I would recommend trying to build good habits so you don't do it. It's okay in the first draft to say Bruce hated puppies. But in the second draft, when you run across that line, you should say, wow, how can I show that Bruce hates puppies? Can I have him kick a puppy? Oh, okay, there's no puppies around. Can I make something sound like the bark of a dog and have him say, ah, I hate that neighbor's dog, or something like this? Is there any way you can show him hating puppies better than saying, I hate puppies? And you're doing this a lot, and I've read your writing, I know you do it. You're doing it a lot. And you need to find out how to do more of these shows. Now, one of the big ways to move something toward, I put this backwards, so to move something that way is to move it toward dialogue. A dialogue is inherently more show than it is tell, because it's happening in scene rather than abstractly in someone's thoughts. The problem is you can still do lots of telling in a dialogue. We call this maid and butler. Have I talked about Maid and Butler?
No.
Our early plays back in the 1800s, they would start the play by having the maid and the butler come onto the stage, and the maid would say, as you know, the master has been away for 3 weeks. And the butler says, yes, I do know that. And as you know, his wife has been getting very frisky with the gardener. And the maid would say, I do know that. Did you know? And they go back and forth things they already both know in order to tell the audience. Feels very fake to readers when you do this. You don't want to have characters discussing things that they both already know. People usually kind of sidestep this by saying, we've had this argument 100 times. No, which is a little bit of a clever sidestep, but usually these still feel a little fake. You want to find good ways to work these things into conversation if you can, or do a show. If the master has been away, start the scene with the maid cleaning the master's sitting room, and everything has been the same way for 3 weeks because the master has not moved it. He's been away. That's a show. The maid is doing something, and we have a description of the room that kind of shows how pristine it is, that also works into what the plot arc is. And then, you see the gardener walk past by the window, humming to himself, coming away from the tool shed, And then the lady of the house comes out a few minutes later. You have the maid wait and look, and sure enough, she comes out. That's enough. That's 10 times better. You've just given us an excellent way of setting the scene by pulling us in more rather than knocking us out more by giving us all this description. So, one way to make your characters feel alive is to learn how to show who they are rather than tell us who they are. Rather than 3 sentences of what they like and dislike in the world, writing into the scene a way that you can do that. What this does is this gets its hooks in us, like I talked about with the pyramid of abstraction. This stuff moves the story down. It all feels like it's in story. It gets its hooks in the reader, and therefore the reader is more on board. The reader is into the story more. The story becomes real to them, as opposed to just, a scene set before them with fake furniture and fake plants. Instead, you start to feel like this is a real world with living, breathing characters because things are going on. Okay? So, trick number 1, show, don't tell.